fellow Toastmasters and guests. When was the last time you walked out of a meeting and said to yourself, man, that was a great meeting. I felt like I accomplished so much during that meeting. How often does that really happen? That's right. People don't always run their meetings effectively. When I walk into a meeting, I want to know exactly what it is I'm walking into. And when I walk out of it, I want to feel like my time was well spent. There are common pitfalls that a lot of meeting facilitators make. And these pitfalls are listed up here. And I'm going to talk to you about them and also provide some suggestions and recommendations on how you can avoid them the next time you're facilitating a meeting. The first one is, many meeting facilitators, they don't plan for the logistics of the meeting. Setting the right environment for your meeting is crucial. It's the foundation upon what your meeting is built upon. If you don't set the right environment, it's going to be very difficult for everyone who attends your meeting to actively participate and add value and achieve the goals and objectives of that meeting. So before you set up your meeting, before you have your meeting, plan for it and ask yourself, how many people are coming? And do I have a room that's big enough to accommodate everyone? What kind of visual aids will I need? Am I going to need a laptop and a projector? Am I going to need an internet connection? If I'm going to be having a workshop, do I need flip charts and markers so that everyone can use that and be productive during our meeting? These simple tools will make a big difference in your meeting. The next pitfall that I want to talk about is ground rules. Not everyone knows what ground rules are. But ground rules are the rules of engagement that you can set up right at the beginning of your meeting. So, simple ground rule is, let's start and end on time. Respect the facilitator. Turn your cell phones to silent so that you're making the best use of everyone's time and you're not distracting others. Simple rules. Right? It's a good practice to get consensus from everyone in your meeting on those ground rules and get everyone's buy-in before you start. That way you can force everyone to respect those rules and follow them. Ground rules come in handy when your meeting goes and you find your meeting going astray and not sticking to its agenda. That's when you can say, hey, hang on there. You're breaking one of the ground rules. We need to get back on track and start talking about what's really on the agenda here. Ground rules really help set the stage. The next is not creating a parking lot. Many people don't know what this is either. A parking lot is just like it sounds, a place to park new discussion items that weren't on your agenda. This is such a useful tool because how often have you been in a meeting and people have started talking about other things that you didn't really want to talk about because you never planned for it? When that happens, you run out of time, you don't meet your objectives for what you planned for, right? And now you've talked about other things that you have never even planned for. Right? So now you need to schedule another meeting so that you can get everyone back into that room and start talking about the things you really want to talk about. A parking lot comes in handy because the way I use it is when someone starts talking about something different and everyone thinks it's still important and that we need to talk about it, I'll say, hey Laura, that's a really good point. You know what, let me put that on the parking lot and towards the end of the meeting, we'll come back to it once we've gone through the agenda. That forces the team to stay on track, forces you to stick to the agenda and keep going and help you achieve your goals. And towards the end of the meeting, if you run out of time, then get consensus from everyone and say, hey, is this really important enough for us to have another meeting? And if it is, set it up so you can talk about it. The parking lot is not to brush stuff away. If it's important enough, you should talk about it. If not during your meeting, then at some other point. The next pitfall is, well, not having an agenda. Right? It makes me irascible when I walk into a meeting and there isn't an agenda. Okay? Because I walk into a meeting and I have no idea what it's about. I want to know what it's about so I can plan for it. If I need to read up on materials, I can read up on it. Having an agenda is important because you should send that out before your meeting starts. That way you can get people to prepare for those items and be prepared for that meeting. When people don't get an agenda before the meeting starts, there's a chance that they might not even attend because they don't know what it's really about. And they may not think that it's important enough for them to attend. They may have other priorities that they think take precedence. The other thing that happens when you don't have an agenda is people come into that meeting with assumptions and preconceived notions on what that meeting is really about. So everyone has a different idea on what they're here to talk about. And what that causes to happen is when your meeting starts and people start talking, everyone is going in a different direction. Your meeting starts on a poor note. And you're going to spend the next 10, 15 minutes level setting expectations and getting everyone back on track so that you can actually talk about the things you wanted to talk about. So an agenda is really important, and it has 3 pieces to it. You should always have 3 pieces to it, at the very least. The first is the purpose of the meeting. This is a simple sentence. One short, simple sentence on, hey, that meeting went really well, and I think we really accomplished a lot. What is that lot? The answer to that question is your purpose. A simple statement on what it is you want to accomplish from that meeting. The second, it should state the deliverables that you want to accomplish from that meeting. What should the outcome of that meeting be? List them out so that when people come to that meeting, they can see it and they know exactly what they need to be doing during that meeting. And the third are the specific discussion items. What specific items do you want to talk about? Try to formulate them in questions so that people are easier to, so it gets easier for people to understand what it is that they want to talk about. Agendas can make a big difference. The next is having a poor kickoff. Once everyone's in the room, you've created your parking lot, you've created your ground rules, and you've gotten everyone's buy-in. You now need to kick off your meeting. It's a problem if you don't first go through the agenda with everyone and say, okay, here are the items of the agenda, here's what we're going to talk about, because it can cause the meeting to go astray. Go over the purpose, and when you go over the purpose, talk about the WIFM. I don't know if you guys have heard of the WIFM. WIFM stands for What's in it for me. This is your chance to sell what the meeting is about, to get everyone engaged and excited. Talk about the WIFM so that people stay fully engaged. Then talk about the deliverables so they know what they need to produce towards the end. And then talk about the agenda items so that they know what exactly they're going to be talking about. And the last piece is not having next steps. When your meeting ends, a lot of people can walk away from a great meeting thinking, oh, that meeting went really well. But you know what? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do after the meeting. If you don't talk about your next steps, it's going to cause problems for you because your work's not going to get done after the meeting. Your next steps is essentially talking about every single action item that's come out of the meeting, who owns that action item, and by when they need to get it done. Talk about it out loud with everyone in that meeting room so they all know and you can hold them accountable for it. And once your meeting ends, or the next days or weeks, follow up with them to make sure that they've executed their action items. This will make a big difference in making sure that your work gets done. In conclusion, if you follow these recommendations and avoid these common pitfalls, you'll accomplish 2 things. 1, you're going to look like a rock star in front of your peers and your boss, because they're going to think, oh, you did a really good job running that meeting. I felt like you really accomplished a lot. And 2, you're going to get your work done in a lot less time with a lot less effort. Thank you.